All right. Live at 5. What's happening, Tommy? How you doing, buddy?
Captain Mike, how are you?
I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good. I would say if you got a top, pop the top. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but I'm drinking Diet Coke. I can't have the
Yeah,
big
like
cervezas anymore.
water here.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Maybe later.
All right, guys. Yeah, maybe later. Today's show guest is Tommy. Tommy's down in Cape Coral, and his channel is Adventures of Happy Hours. And let's see. Let me show you a video right quick. We got another one here, Tommy's intro video. Let me just show that to you right quick. All right, I see you had the mate there with you. Matey there with you.
Admin, good.
Let's see. All right, guys, like normal, tell us where you're from. Tommy is going to be watching the comments. As y'all know, it's kind of hard for me to do them all. I'm working on the back end as well as Tommy. I'll try to see any comments that we miss. And we're going to come back and talk about Tommy and I did a video, and we'll talk about his history here in just a second. Let me get to my next little thing here. The question I usually get, and usually this is designed to talk about boat updates or what have you. And good times, what I got done on good times was absolutely zero. I was actually gone on a 4-day kayaking trip up the Sewanee River, took some veterans up there, had a great time, and that video will drop within a day or so. But I didn't really get a chance to get anything done on that. However, I am going to show you a couple of pictures here on things that I ordered that I found that I needed, and I got those in. This is sideways. I don't know how to make it straight. Kind of new on this, but a charger, the old charger on the boat, man, this thing is original, and you'll see in the video when we switch this one out. I like this one a lot. I had it on good times. It works well. It's a dual port charger, and of course, to get started, you got to have a decent charging system. And then, these are heat shrinks. Every connection that I make, I'm going to heat shrink. And I think, oh, this is kind of cool. This is some stuff. This picture and these next couple, I bought from a lady, 200 bucks, 225 for all this stuff, including this grill here. So, Tommy, you know them grills, they're kind of expensive, and I think the
Oh, yeah.
last one I paid three something just for the grill, and so I got these items trying to get ahead. But as I said, I'm going to do this one right. All my connections are all going to be new wiring and all that. But let's see. So I covered all that. So I want to go back and introduce you to Tommy a little bit more, and he can kind of tell you his little story. But Tommy, I don't know, it's been a couple years ago when we started the Great Loop. You did a video for us on where to anchor, and I'm going to utilize that video whenever I get up back up there
Hope
on
it's
where
still
to
current.
anchor up in
Get there.
the well, you know how the waterways are. That's, you never know. But he did a video on where to anchor, and so that was pretty helpful back in. That's when we got to talking, and then we become friends. And Tommy lived up in somewhere in New York. Where up
New
there?
York, up by Albany, upstate New York on the
Up
Hudson
north.
River. Yep.
All right, and he now lives in Cape Coral, right where the hurricane hit. And
Yes.
before he did, he moved down here, and then he moved his boat from New York, drove it down. Great trip, and then he's got that chronicled on his channel. But gets to Florida, and then Ian welcomes him to Florida with how much water in your house?
6 inches in the house.
And his boat crossed a canal up on his neighbor's what, took out his dock and
His dock,
yeah.
his fence, yes, is in his yard for about a month.
Yeah, so he's got a really good video on his channel about that, how they got that off of there. When I went down looking, y'all know I was back looking for Good Times 2.0, and so we stopped and we did an interview. You can check out that interview, but back then we was trying to figure out how you was going to get it off, but then whatever happened with that? What did you do there?
Well, the insurance, it went through Boat US, Geico Salvage Insurance, and they sent a crew out after I tried to get crews out there myself just to get somebody quicker because it was over a month that it sat there. And then one day out of the blue, this big 40-foot barge comes down the canal with a big crane on it and a whole litany of boats behind it, like support vessels. And they lifted it off, and a few hours later, it was sitting in the water at the dock behind my house.
Yeah, good video. He shot a lot of good videos showing every bit of that. Let's see. I want to say welcome, Dustin. I see you. Dustin used to live here, and then I guess he's up in Tennessee now. Hey, Jules, what's happening? Ryan, Matt says been watching ever since Marty last year. Hey, Stephen, Matt. Let's see. Going down through these comments, kind of hard to see. Illinois, North Carolina, Oriental. Oh, fishing with Mr. B. I went fishing with Mr. B up in Oriental, North Carolina. I got a video on my channel. How you doing, sir? Good to see you. Brandon, let's see. How's your health? Perfect, man. I'm healed. That's all I can tell you. I'm back up. I'm now having to watch my weight. It's come up so much. I'm hit this morning. I got on the scale at Publix and I hit 235, or actually 234, and I'm trying to hold it 230. So I'll just start watching what I'm eating. Been intermittent fasting, so I don't eat breakfast. I stop eating at night, and then intermittent fasting in the morning. But God's healed me. That's all I can tell you. I didn't have any surgery, anything. I just got healed. So that's all hopefully in the past, and we don't have to worry about that anymore. But so Tommy, what you doing now there in Cape Coral? What's going on nowadays down there?
There's a lot going on down here. Well, right now, the boat happy hours is on the hard. It's in a boatyard, getting hopefully work done. That I'm biting my nails about. But so that's on that front. That's where that boat is. We also, if anybody who follows the channel, they see that we also bought a pontoon boat, and we've been keeping ourselves busy with the pontoon boat, driving around, exploring with that in the local areas and the waters. And just recently started a charter business where we're taking people out on the boats, out on the pontoon boat. And when we get happy hours back, we're going to hopefully, put this to good use, this Coast Guard license, captain's license. And so we've been having some fun with that, keeping me busy. And as we're waiting for the big boat to get ready.
So Tommy did the trip from up there where he lived all the way down. How many days was that? How long did that one take?
Took 5 weeks from upstate New York down the Hudson River all the way to the west coast of Florida and Cape Coral.
Yep. So he's been through it. That's for sure. I guess about now you've completed about half of the loop, if you want to say as far as the loop goes.
Reverse half
So
loop.
what was? Yeah. I went the other way. What would you say was the worst part of the loop for you? What did you think was the worst?
There was no real worst part, and we had a couple days where it got a little rough. We had some storms come in. We avoided what we can, but right around Virginia, where was it? By Portsmouth.
Southport.
Right.
No, Portsmouth.
Just as you come into the bay there, we hit a bad storm there. Got that on video. I had my brother Brian with me during that. That got a little hairy. We thought we're going to lose the entire top during that storm, but we made it through there. And then we had another storm here or there coming down. But by and large, no complaints. We had no mechanical failures on the boat. Didn't break down. Nothing happened that would make me say, "Hey, what was the worst part?" I enjoyed it. Loved every minute of it. it was great when I had my brothers with me for a couple of weeks, and it was great doing it solo for a couple of weeks. So it was
Yeah.
a lot of
It's a different animal when you do it solo. You definitely relying on yourself when you don't have anybody else watching. And at
mm,
first, it's a little nerve wracking, but then or at least for me, it didn't take long. You get comfortable, and you just like boating with people. I thought that when you hit that heavy water, I thought that was the Chesapeake, but which really was part of that, I guess. But
mm,
that's crazy how the water in that small body of water in Portsmouth area can get, because that's really not that big. I guess if it would have got you out in the Chesapeake, it could have been a lot
right.
worse.
Yeah, we were
It would have
just
had the
round
wind.
the point in going into the bay
Yeah,
by there at keep saying in Portsmouth, but what is that bay there where all the Navy ships?
Norfolk,
Norfolk,
Norfolk.
right? Yeah,
But you're right. Portsmouth's on one side, Norfolk's on the other.
exactly.
Matter of fact, right about where you was is where I stopped. That's where I
Yes.
lost the engine and
Yep.
went, and yeah, right there, right before the last, um, or it would have been your first carrier that you've seen
Hmm.
coming in. That's where I lost the engine because
Yep.
I was
We
all
saw you.
worried that I was going to float up near the carrier, up there near the carrier, and they were going to come out
Right.
and greet me.
Yeah. When we went
But
right before we went on the Dismal Swamp, that route, we actually saw your boat up on the Hard, the old Good Times,
I,
sitting there.
I remember that.
Was able to
I
see, take a
remember that.
picture of it from afar.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah, talking about the Dismal Swamp, that because I hit things in the Dismal Swamp. I don't know if you did, but the problem with that, it's a beautiful ride. I mean, just I strongly suggest people go through there and go through the Dismal Swamp, which connects Elizabeth City, North Carolina, to Deep Creek or Portsmouth area. It pops out right there at Deep Creek. But it's such an interesting canal. It was dug. Portions of it was dug way back. Uh, Trying to think, who was it?
George Washington, I
Mm,
think, was involved with
yeah,
this. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. That's right. So just a lot of history there. You can tell where it's straight, but then it goes into the natural flow of the river, uh, come where it comes out. Just beautiful, absolutely. And I got
Absolutely.
family right there. I stayed. Oh, there's free docks there too. Did y'all stay
Yes.
on the docks or did y'all go right?
No,
Oh, you did. Okay.
we just you forged on through it, and we did hit quite a few logs or debris that was at the bottom of the canal. I would say at least a dozen times that we hit something that was submerged. And the depths should be fine there, but there's so many trees that fall in there, and they just lay on the bottom, and your prop, clips it as you go along. I think that may have caused some of the issue with vibration with my prop, and I'm having some issues with the RPM on one of the motors.
Yeah, yeah. That's the only downside is everybody says that. Um, I'm I unfortunately don't have to go back through it again because when I trailer the boat up there, I'll start back. Actually, put in right there in Chesapeake is where I'll put in. I forget the name of the park, but I've been is that's how far I made it. I noticed. Let's see. What about Good Times 2 or Good Times 2? So I didn't really get a lot done on that. I know people come in the room, so I have to kind of keep going back. I didn't get a lot of done on this week, although got a few things in that I need, all the wiring, all the electrical stuff that I need. So hopefully next week I'll have a few more things done, and then the following week I'm going to North Carolina to help a buddy, Mountain Man Jim Reddick, do some projects up there. So it'll be a little bit before I get a significant amount done. Although I will be dropping a video about Good Times 2.0 on the motor, so you'll see that real soon. Let's see. But the two is Roman numerals. Yeah, I had a lot of people saying, but I'm not 100% because somebody may say something, um, come up with a better name. But at this point, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Good Times 2.0. Let's see what's happening, Kevin, Slim Stan. What's happening going on? Yep. Slim was saying that's where I broke down. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So, yeah, we don't actually have a lot. Might actually get to the time limit this day. We try to keep these things to 30 minutes, but sometimes they run over quite a bit. So you were saying happy hours is up on the hard, and as is the case down here after a hurricane. You were saying you're trying to get some work done. Of course, you and everybody else in Cape Coral is trying to get work done. So tell that
Exactly.
little story. This is typical of boating after a hurricane.
Right. Yeah. So, I try to do a lot of the work on my boat myself because you save a boatload of money, and you do it at your leisure and your timeline. You're not under, restraints of somebody else when they could work on it. And that's exactly what I'm going through right now. So the boat is on the hard in a boatyard here in local North Fort Myers, not too far, only about a half an hour drive from me. The problem is not a lot of mechanics, not a lot of fiberglass mechanics around that can do the work. So I'm waiting for them to do that. And in the meantime, it's sitting there just taking my money without any use.
Yeah,
Exactly. So break out the boat units, as they say.
that's
So
right.
they it's a unique yard where they don't allow owners to work on their own boats, and I'm actually struggling to try to get the permission to work on my own boat. And what they want is a contractor mechanic insurance for liability issues. And I'm trying to work my way around getting that. But not being in the mechanic industry or a professional mechanic over the years, that's a little tough to get. So still working on it. We still don't know how this is going to pan out. I'm hoping the boat's back in the water in the next month or so, but time will tell. We'll know more this week.
Yeah. So you were saying Tommy, he was aware of where we did the work there back when we had the problems at Glades Boat Yard, and you called them, and they were what, several months booked out because
Yes. Yep.
everybody's trying to get them on the hard.
About 3 months waiting list to get the boat at Glades, and it's about an hour and a half drive for me to go up there. I may still make it up there. I don't know. We'll see how things go here locally, but it would definitely be worth my while if I was to go up there. Just monetarily, it would be a lot cheaper because I would be able to do a lot of the work myself. So we'll see what happens. Keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah. So this is a lesson, guys. I always try to talk about lessons learned, but man, this is if you're ever involved in a hurricane or anything like that, you and everybody else is trying to get the same service, like as in with his house. He was telling me the horror stories, trying to get stuff done. But boating absolutely is really better if you can wait because not only are they too busy, they don't give you any breaks on the prices. They'll usually jack the prices up. So this in with like with my boat, um, I'll show you everything that I'm going to do. As Tommy said, if you can do the work yourself, you will save yourself a ton of money. And I hope to inspire people on this channel. I'm no mechanic, never was trained as a mechanic, but I've learned to replace my motors. And the reason, that that's so important is when I'm on a trip and when I start back on the Great Loop, after I will have done to this boat what I'm going to do, there will be nothing in that boat that I don't know. So if something happens, I'll be able to fix it. So I strongly encourage you. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm going to do a little video about it. Is and Tommy, I'm sure you're very aware of this. You've been a very productive person. But if you look at the whole boat project, the whole boat, you will get overwhelmed. So you have to break it down in bite-sized bits. Otherwise, it would be overwhelming to you. And so now I'm working on the wet chain locker. And I've never done a chain locker, though I've done fiberglass work and things along that nature. So if you'll just start on it and just keep muddling through it, and now with YouTube, my gosh, there ain't nothing you can't do really if you'll just study it. But you don't
Yep.
look at the boat in the whole project. You just break it down into pieces and give yourself a reasonable amount of time. That is something I want to say. I don't know, Tommy, maybe if you've seen, but a lot of boats are for sale that are project boats that somebody else started and they never finished. It's
Yes.
because they weren't realistic. Yeah, they weren't realistic with what they were taking on. I'm not married. I can tell you, if you're married, it's really hard, especially if you're married with young kids. That's not probably the time in your life to take on a huge project because there's just not enough time in the day. And I can't tell you how many times, Tommy, I'm sure you'll see it and you can talk about it, that you'll go to a boat yard and there'll be boats that people have been paying for years that are sitting there and they're just paying and there nothing's being done on them because
Yes.
they overestimate it, how long it takes to, or underestimate it, I should say, how long it takes to do stuff. And here's a big one. If I can impart an advice to you, when you can have that boat sitting in your yard, the amount of work you can do is tremendous. But if you got to drive an hour or two to get to it, and then you've got a few, a little bit of period of time to work on it, that ain't going to work. It takes a special person to be able to do that. What do you think
Right.
about that, Tommy?
Oh, absolutely. Having the boat right in my backyard and at the dock was
Yeah,
able to do so much work to it. But the work that it needs now, it had to come out of the water. It's fiberglass work on the
right.
hull, had to get the work on the bottom, get new bottom paint on it. The props had to come off. So I did everything I possibly can above water, and it's
Yeah,
looks good. Other than just some scratches and gouges in the fiberglass, but that's it's ready to roll. We've gone trips. We've just put out the video for a Cabbage Key trip. That was after Hurricane Ian. So it
yeah,
is working. We're enjoying it, but so we're missing it right now.
yeah. I'm definitely a project guy. I just over the years we were talking earlier that you pay somebody to do the work and then you realize I could have at least done it that good, if not better. And boy, that there's nothing makes me madder than pay money and
Mm,
then the work's not. And times like this where you got so many people needing work, it's just not a good time to try to get stuff done.
right.
But anyways, talking about good times, I'll break it down and choosing that particular boat was by design. In other words, as I say to a lot of people, I would have never got in somebody's boat, even if they said they just rebuilt that engine. I would have never trusted that. I would have to rebuild the engine myself to go, several thousand miles away. But it's just crazy to do that, in my opinion, because I'm gonna tell you, over the years, all the boats that I've owned, how many lies I'm sure people told me, and I learned the hard way. You know what I'm saying? That it wasn't what they said. So, and I really like doing projects. It's kind of strange. Not a lot of people don't like doing projects, but I actually enjoy it. So,
Speaking of project on your boat, you have a question up here because you mentioned about replacing the motor. It's from Tony Simmons. Have you thought about putting an oversized motor in your boat?
yes, Tony, very good point. I actually am going to do that. I called the mechanic, the guy that I bought. I've done 6 engines with. So this will be my seventh, or this will be my sixth. I kind of getting confused, but anyways, that was first thing I called him because I done some reading, different people that said, and people will say things that they don't know what they're talking about sometimes. So you got to get the real. But people would say, "Oh, those boats are hard to get out the hole sometimes." So naturally, when I said that, this boat has a 305 in it, 5.0, which is basically the 350 or 305 Merc Cruiser block. And I wanted to step up to the 350. So I called him. He's like, yes, absolutely, no problem. So the major reason that I done that is I'm going to have way more weight on this boat than the average will. I'm going to try to add fuel capacity to it. I'll have provisions on it. So yes, I am going to step up to the 5.7, the 350, as well as pull the OMC outdrive off and put on a new um, outdrive. All of that running gear will be brand new. So good point. But but then again, I talked to different people that actually own boats. They own these boats, and they said there wasn't no problem. But very good question about you know overpowering it. That is a good point. And It's going to be an interesting experience being able to get up and run. I think Tommy, you ran 8 to 10 most of the trip, except sometimes you did get up and go.
Yeah, we averaged probably 7 or 8 knots. There were a couple times when we went out on the ocean, we did pick it up a little bit just to cut the days down. 14-hour days is a long time to be traveling. So we bypassed Georgia altogether, and mainly because the comments that you mentioned about you would like to avoid
Yeah,
Georgia. Again, it's very
yeah,
windy, it's shallow in spots. So we took it slow and tried to conserve fuel. Of course, we traveled when fuel prices were through the roof. The absolute worst time you could take a boat trip, that's when we went out on a boat. So we had to do it. But so we got through it. But you mentioned when you took the trip with good times, that was slow speed also the whole way. Are you going
yeah,
to go fast
yeah.
now with the new boat?
Yes, I'll definitely. The reason to having a boat that would get up and run, once you get into the rivers, the Erie Canal, and places that you can go, kind of what you said. There are times you want to get up and run. Running slow is great. There's a lot to be seen. It's much safer. It gives you time to see things that you may not see. But there are times, especially when I'm coming south in the rivers, Tennessee Tom, I want to be able to get up and run. And to be honest with you, at that point, I'll be looking at the finish line and I'm going to be ready to finish it. As well as a
Florida.
challenge of a boat. Yeah, a challenge of a boat going slow like that is you can't really outrun storms. So, like in the Great Lakes, the first 2 or 3, 4 hours of the morning, this is general speaking. Tommy, I'm sure can attest to this. That's going to be your best water time to move. It's going to be calm from the night before, so you can usually get up. So if you got a boat that runs 20, 25, you can get up and knock out 100 miles before the winds build up, and that makes a big difference. On the rivers, it's not a big deal. You can pretty much run all day, but I tell you, you was a trooper to do that, Tommy, the way you did in them 12, 14-hour days, man. I can't do much more than about 4 and I'm ready to stop,
Oh
go
yeah.
look at
I,
stuff or
I
get off. Yeah.
I really enjoyed doing the shorter days a lot more. Stopping around mid afternoon and enjoying lighting up the barbecue and kicking back and relaxing. It was nice. But there were some days I just had to make time. I had to get down. I couldn't push it too much longer than 5 weeks. We were meeting
Yeah.
up with the on the east coast of Florida, and that was going to start the vacation portion of it. Where we actually
Right.
enjoyed it, swimming and visited the islands along the way. It's beautiful. East coast of Florida, well, all of Florida is beautiful, but
It
that's
is.
when we really got to enjoy it once we got together down here.
Absolutely. And Jamie, you've got a question here. Let's see. Um, oh, that was a different one. I went to click on Jamie's. We'll come back to that one too. But how can you know how much extra weight? I keep forgetting that I got this feature here where I can click on their questions. But how can you know how much extra weight you can add to your boat? Bigger engine, more fuel, and still have the ride to right height in the water. So I gotta say, I don't think that riding in the water. So here's the deal. What I would say about that: when you first get your boat, most of us would do it. Is you put it in the water and see where the water line is. As a matter of fact, on this boat where they got the bottom paint the line, I just don't see that boat sitting that way. So I got to get it in the water to see exactly where I'm going to paint my bottom paint at. But one of the first things you would do is put it in the water, see where it rides, and when you're doing a trip like what I was doing, so when you start loading it, you can kind of have uh, an idea of how much lower you're setting in the water. As far as provisions, when they build a boat and they power a boat, they figure it for the certain average gear that people are going to put on there, depending on what the boat is. The interesting thing about this boat, and another reason why I'm overpowering it, is this is not a cruiser boat. This is a weekender boat. So I'm taking a weekender boat and turning it into a cruiser boat. But there's reasons for that. Not everybody can afford a big cruiser boat. Plus, a big cruiser boat takes a lot more fuel. So I'm just intentionally trying to show a different way of doing it. So I hope that answers your question. That the 350 should more than power this boat. The fuel I'm going to put on is I'm only going to try to put on about 30 more gallons, and fuel water weighs 8.5. So what's that? 24, something like that, 240 gallons or pounds more. That's not that's not too terrible. And then provisions, I'll kind of limit, what we have on there. I know looking back on pictures, I won't have near the stuff, that I
Think
had on
about all
good
that
times.
weight you would
I
save
think,
with fuel.
oh yeah, yeah. Now, yeah, no doubt. Uh, I do partake in a little bit of wine every now and again, but it ain't very much. But the days of all that beer, no doubt, can't have
Yep.
that. But that's really a good question. Let's see.
Yeah, there's another one
There
here
was
from
another
Eastern
question.
Equipment. Yeah, actually, he just asked me a question how I like Cape Coral. They're looking to get a house down here in Cape Coral also. So let's see. He's asking why didn't I take it by trailer? I think he's saying here with the prices of fuel, I decided to take a trip like that and not get a company to lowboy it, like a lowrider trailer. So we did price them at the lowest point before the gas went through the roof. It was more than $10,000 just to trailer the boat down, and I think today's prices are upwards of 20 or around that for my size boat. Plus the amount of work to prep the boat to put it on the trailer. You need to pull the shafts props. You got to take the arch off. You have to take everything on the top on a bridge that may be up above a certain height. It can only be like 12 feet 9 inches high or whatever it may be. So with all that work and the cost, really savings weren't there. And I always wanted to do the loop. That was a bucket list item. Like you love to do this loop too. And not that I did the loop, I did half loop. But yeah. So the money, I know we paid top price for gas, but it was still worth it in my eyes as far as the experience and getting to do that. Who knows if I'll ever be able to do that again?
So how much, Tommy, did you think you spent in the fuel, or what was your budget, you
About
think?
Yeah, we reviewed that because I kept an extensive spreadsheet of all the costs, and it was about $10,000 in fuel going down there. And again, going slow most of the time, maybe spending seven gallons an hour at that slow speed of like 7 or 8 knots. So it wasn't too bad for that. Where it ticked it up is when I went
Yep.
on the outside and I tried to go 20 miles an hour with a 24,000 pound boat, and you're burning 40 gallons an hour in the ocean. So that's where it really got expensive. So
Listen,
we
you
tried.
said it. You said it. If you're a boater, you want a boat. The only reason that I could imagine that really that you would pay that. Now, I know some people are might be nervous if they never done it, but I'm telling you, watch a channel like ours, and you can do it yourself. But the only reason, honestly, is if you make so much money at your business or whatever it is that you do, that A, you can't get the time off, or B, it would cost you more, money lost. I could see that. But the experience that Tommy now has and what I have over the years, different trips, man, that is priceless. That wash of money, and like you said, you paid 10,000 in fuel, but then you have to haul out, put back, do all that work, all the money related to having it hauled out, put on the trailer, and then put back, and
Right.
then you hear all kind of stories of damage to boats, coming down the roadway. So if it was me, um, you know, even if you had to do the boat trip in stages, like if you brought it halfway and then put it in a marina and then went back over a period of time. There's a lot of people do the loop like that. That's kind of what's happening to me. That's what I'm
Right.
doing. I'm
In
doing it
second.
in stages and doing it in sections. Not everybody can afford to do it all at one time. And I'm gonna tell you what I learned this last year, people. If you're thinking about doing something and you've had that dream, of maybe doing the loop or whatever it is, let me just assure you, you think you have unlimited time and you don't. I don't know how many people that I used to remember seeing boats for sale and me loving boats, and they would say for health reasons. And I'd go, man, why would you sell your boat? Well, let me tell you, I know why. Your health can change so fast, and everything you worked for all them years, if you had a dream of say doing the loop and you didn't do it, could be wiped out and you never get to do it. So if you're have ever thought about doing the loop or something along these lines, or becoming a boat captain like Tommy recently did, or whatever it is, you do not have unlimited time. Things can change overnight. And I promise you, I learned that lesson. I'm chasing my dreams twice as hard now because every day goes by and we're not getting any younger. I know I look like a 23-year-old, but I'm just saying I'm not. So no, but I'm kidding. But really, would you agree with that, Tommy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It did help that I am semi-retired. I retired from my full-time job up in New York back in April, so that made it a no-brainer. Also, I have all this time. I was in between work, so it made sense to do it at that point. But it's tough to do if you have a career, a job where you have to be in an office or work in a certain area. It's hard to do this, but you can do it in stages, like you said, like you're doing it. People do that on the Appalachian
Yes.
Trail when they hike up and down the trail. They may hike for a few weeks, a couple months, and then go back to work and start the next leg, 6 months later or so. So do it at your, what you could fit in your schedule.
Well, and what I say is just start some. Like for instance, like uh for where I live in Tampa, the first like long trip that I did, and I thought, oh my God, I went to the to the Keys, and I'm like, before I did that, I'm like, man, that's so hard to do. Well, then when you do the Keys trip, you're like, well, that's nothing. And then you do, a long trip like you did or like I did, and you realize again, breaking it down in those bite sizes, it's really nothing. So if you got a boat and you're thinking about do this, I strongly suggest do little trips. And what will happen is that bug will bite you and you'll realize how great it is being on the water. Man, I can tell you story after story. Your stories will go up tenfold. And don't be scared. Tommy, you can attest to this. Don't be scared of things happening to you, because those are the things you will remember, and those are the stories you'll tell, like with that storm and worrying. At the time, it's a little nerve wracking, but later it becomes a great story. You won't remember running down the waterway and nothing happening. You won't recall that. It won't mean nothing to you. But I can tell you over the years, all the stories of, what someone might say were bad things, they became great stories. And Chicago Boater asked you a question here. Tommy, any plans on completing the Great Loop, uh, like the total Great Loop? And would you
The
rather do it in a diesel other than or a gas?
I really don't have a whole lot of interest in doing the full loop. That whole Mississippi side coming down that way doesn't really strike my interest at this point. I love the East Coast. There is so much to see in Florida, and you've done so many trips, up and down the Keys and all around here, all these different islands to visit. That's why we love the West Coast so much too. But I wouldn't mind going back up the East Coast to make it back to New York, maybe to visit family once the Admiral is retired also, and we have that free time to go back and forth. I would love to do that, but I don't know about going through all the canals to New York, through the Great Lakes, and making it that way. There's too much to see on the East Coast and down in Florida for me to do that trip. Would I rather do it in a diesel? A gas boat does not scare me. I'm familiar with gas engines my entire adult life. I've been working on gas motors. So actually, diesels are intimidating a little bit to me, but I know they're a lot less maintenance. There's a lot of parts that go bad. But when the big stuff happens with them, they're very costly. So, with the type of boating I do, it doesn't make that much of a difference either way. I generally go slow. I'm not pushing the boat too fast. So, the diesel is where you really get the torque and the power to go faster speeds at lower fuel cost. But if I'm just putting around at 8, 10 knots, it's the fuel costs are almost the same. So I'm not worried about either one.
Yeah, and I can tell you when you're talking about engines, like he's saying, if you go with gas, if you do the work yourself, you don't have to worry about it. But if you go with gas, parts are way more available. than diesel parts. And not every place, not every smaller marina has diesel. So there's a lot of reasons why you would want to go gas. And because you got to figure you're going to have breakdowns or stuff. Actually, you lucked out really well without any major breakdown, but people break down quite often. So I certainly wouldn't be scared. And like you said, going slow. Now, if I don't need to run, I like that 8 to 10 miles an hour because you get to see stuff. And I can tell you, boy, you running 20, 25, 30 miles an hour, man, stuff comes up on you so fast, you misread the depths. And before you know it, you're running aground. Those are the people that run aground. Usually at 8 to 10, you look over there and you realize you're getting in shallow water, even though you're in the channel where it marked this channel. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that. I got pictures here in the West Coast because it's notorious for being shallow, where the
Lake
marker is
Okeechobee.
laid over in the dirt. Oh yeah, let's don't even talk about that. Stay in the channel, bro. That's all I can tell you. Stay in the channel. Hey, Walter asked you, Tommy, you gonna do a tour of your home
My
after
home.
or whenever? Yeah, all
Wow.
that damage.
I didn't think of a tour. I actually did a quick walkthrough when I did a video during Hurricane Ian, just as I got home after the storm hit, and seeing the all the flood water and all that, the damage in the house. I didn't think there was really an interest in that as a boating channel, but hey, maybe one of these days, once we're 100%
Yeah,
done, might do
yeah.
something like that.
Well, are you shooting video like during the damage part? I'm sure you are. You shoot any
Oh well, yeah.
video about for the
There,
damage and all?
I was, yeah, I had a video where me and the puppy, Matey, when we evacuated the house and just drove out of the flood zone. And then when we drove back at night, when it was pitch black and all the power was out and trees are down and flooding everywhere, and we made it back into the house, and seeing the boat for the first time up in the yard of my neighbor's house was very emotional. It was a tough
Mm.
video to do. I wasn't sure if I wanted to put it out there, but it was well received, and it was it's quite the story.
Yeah. Well, I guess if I've learned anything, people want the real. Those channels that they fake stuff and they make stuff up and whatever, whatever. I don't even care to watch that. I want to watch real stuff. So I would say that'd be a good video, even for the person, that may go through this or lives down here in Florida. I think there was a question about that. Someone said something about moving um, down here, or they have plans to move down here. Maybe
Oh,
was
that was
I
Eastern
might have missed
Equipment. He
over.
had asked me a question on one of my videos. That how do we like Cape Coral? And we absolutely love Cape Coral, and haven't even been able to really experience it all yet. There's so much to do down here, and all along the West Coast. It's not just Cape Coral. There's so much to see
Yeah,
around here and
yeah,
play and find a town that fits your lifestyle. You want something a little more exciting. You want a sleepier town, a beach town, things like that. And you'll narrow it down and find the place you want to move to.
yeah. I'll tell you, the West Coast of Florida, absolutely amazing. Anywhere from Tampa all the way down, in my opinion. When you go north, it gets rocky and it gets a little more difficult. You don't have the
Mhm.
sand like we have down here, but man, the good life of chilling out on the beaches, on the different little islands you can go up to, just
Yes.
absolutely amazing. Yeah, great place. Well, guys, I think that's going to. Tom, you got anything else big you want to talk about?
No,
I
I'm
think
good.
your wife might be hovering. Somebody was hovering in the background back there,
Keep making
so it might be time for you to get a. Hey, yeah,
wave high. Yes,
yeah. Hey,
yes.
Bridget. Yeah, good deal. You'll see her on a lot of the video on Tommy's. So y'all
Oh yeah.
check out Tommy's channel. I put the a link to it down in the comments or in the uh, description, and check out his channel. You'll see a lot of good stuff on there. Tommy, I appreciate you coming on,
Mike,
helping
thanks for
out
having.
with this one. Yeah, guys, I don't know about next Sunday. We'll see. I'm going to be traveling, so I don't know if I'm going up to North Carolina help Mountain Man Jim Reddick do some projects, and I'll be up there all week. But I do plan on being back Easter Sunday, so we'll do a live at 5 then. Um, all right, guys, appreciate you coming along, and we will see you soon.